Super Mario RPG. Now that was a good game, and like all good games, it got a sequel, or at least it probably would've if Square and Nintendo didn't break up with each other during the N64 era. Instead though, we got not only one but two successor franchises, the Paper Mario games and the Mario and Luigi games. Now I've already talked a lot about the Paper Mario games, well I mean the good ones at least, and I love them a lot. The Mario and Luigi series, on the other hand, is one that I definitely liked, but I was never in love with it the same way as Paper Mario. Well, I mean, except for one game. The first one, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. I remember getting it for my birthday when I was 13 and playing the crap out of it, but I haven't played it in almost 7 years now. Today though, let's change that and revisit it and see if it's as good as I remember it. Now this is what you call a title screen. There's a colorful background, animation for different option selections on the menu, and a catchy title theme. Right off the bat, as soon as the actual game is started, you get a perfect first impression of what this game and pretty much the whole Mario and Luigi franchise are like. Both extremely dark and lighthearted at the same time. 1 minute, a representative from the Bean Kingdom turns out to be a witch and her assistant, and they steal Princess Peach's voice. And right after that, Toad walks in on Mario in a shower and sees him naked. So yeah, quite a contrast. Anyway, Mario teams up with Bowser since he can't kidnap Peach anymore, since her voice was not only stolen, but whatever she speaks, everything explodes. They start their journey to the Bean Kingdom. Luigi gets dragged along, and they run into this witch on the way there, Claughha. She and her minion Fawful, yes that Fawful, shoot down Bowser's ship, stranding the bros in a new land, and a journey truly begins. So first let's tackle gameplay. Like you can already probably guess, it's an RPG with platforming elements. In battles, you attack by either jumping, using your hammer, or a hand attack, which is different depending on who uses it, with Mario's being fire and Luigi's being electricity. Each attack also has a different purpose. Jumps are the easiest to pull off, and certain enemies are weaker to it. Hammer attacks can hit spiked enemies, and the hand attacks deal elemental damage, and certain enemies are super weak to them. And of course, every attack uses action commands, a staple for every Mario RPG. If you press a button at the right time, you deal extra damage. Then there are bros attacks, which are the series staple attacks. In each one, the bros work together to perform a specific move, and when you use one, it doesn't take up both of their turns, like you might assume thankfully. Both Mario and Luigi have a different set of 4 attacks, and most of them use a combination of regular solo moves. Splash Bros and Bounce Bros use jumps. I don't really use them that often towards the end of the game though, just because of how good the hammer attacks are. First, there's Chopper Bros, which hits a lot of times and deals major damage, as well as Knockback Bros, which also deals a lot of damage. Its action command is easy to do, and it just feels good seeing Mario bounce like that. Next to last are the Elemental Bros attacks, like Fire Bros, which kind of sucks. I mean, okay, never mind, it sucks a lot. It barely does any damage, and the action commands are just annoying. The other one, Thunder Bros, I bet you never guessed that name, is much more useful, being able to hit multiple enemies, and sometimes it lowers enemies' defense. And last of all are the optional moves. You can get them by paying a certain amount of coins to this swamp and then getting a 1 in 3 chance of getting a special scroll, teaching a new move. Either Swing Bros or Cyclone Bros. Swing Bros swings Luigi at an enemy, while Cyclone Bros can be used to attack multiple enemies at the same time. Each Bros attack has a second variant as well, called Advanced Attacks. The player unlocks them by using each Bros attack, and randomly Mario or Luigi gets a Brainstorm, and an advanced version of that move is now unlocked. Now when a Bros move is used, you can activate the advanced version pressing a button at a certain time, or sometimes pressing the A button when you're supposed to hit the B button and such. These advanced iterations are a mixed bag to say the least. Some like Cyclone Bros Advance or Splash Bros Advance are really good, yet others like Fire Bros Advance are complete garbage. Best of all, in my personal opinion though, is Swing Bros Advance, as it allows you to steal an item from an enemy. I just wish it was a bit easier to pull off. And the last thing I'll talk about regarding Bros attacks are the multiple layers of complexity. Say if you miss a certain action command, the move changes instead of failing outright. It won't be as powerful, but there are usually other action commands that pop up in this new path, and it's always fun to see what happens, like Luigi running into enemies or if her hammer's breaking. And lastly, if certain action commands are a bit too hard for you, there is an option to slow them down and show what buttons are supposed to pop up for just a little BP. That's not all though, as you can actually dodge enemies' attacks in this game as well, or even counterattack depending on the situation. Sometimes you jump over an enemy as they charge at you, and other times you whack something back at them with a hammer. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I really suck at dodging attacks, and I mean a lot. But I still manage to get by getting tons and tons of level ups and getting good equipment, so if you're ever worried about not being good at action commands to play this game, don't worry. Speaking of level ups, it's one aspect that separates the Mario and Luigi series from the rest of the genre. Upon getting a level up, you of course get stat boosts, but the player can choose what stat they want to get an additional stat boost as well. Then a roulette pops up with a range of different numbers. Sometimes you'll get lucky and increase a stat a lot, and other times not so much. Each level up, what the roulette will find favorable is always different each time, so it's a good idea to try to balance each stat. Outside of battle, platforming is pretty easy, but you do have to press both A and B at the same time to make them both jump. To switch to your hammer, press R, and with it rocks can be smashed. Throughout the adventure, your hammer gets upgraded multiple times. Well, multiple times, I mean twice, but I screwed up my line. But both times, stronger and stronger rocks can be broken. As for the hand moves, the way I've learned is so much cooler and more creative than it could have been. Instead of just having a dude hand out a special glove or something, Mario and Luigi enter a temple on a remote island and touch a special orb guarded by spirits. The spirit guarding the fire orb has been waiting for Mario and treats him like a hero, while the thunder orb spirit sees Luigi as a nobody and gets angry at him for touching it. But he decides that it's too late to do anything about it now and teaches him how to use the technique anyway. With fire, things like torches can be lit, and with thunder, these blue orbs can be activated, which solves puzzles and such. Most of the special moves can be used too, only serving a different purpose, whether it be jumping higher, spinning in the air to get across large gaps, going underground as Luigi to reach secret spots, or setting Luigi on fire to knock stuff down. Yeah, that's the best one of all. What's really fun are sections where only one of the bros can get into a place because you either need to get there as Mini Mario or have Luigi go underground or something. Then the bros work together separately to do things like press switches so the other can progress, then press a switch or something so the other can progress, and so on until the puzzle's solved. I really appreciate how simple it is to switch between them too. All you have to do is just press start, and you're all set. And it's worth mentioning that if you press start when they're together, they swap positions, with Mario in the front and Luigi in the back, and when you press start, Luigi's in the front and Mario's in the back. And this is a cool concept that the rest of Mario and Luigi games don't have. The one aspect I really don't enjoy are minigames. Now, minigames are supposed to be fun, and Superstar Sagas are fun for the most part. The problem is that they're required, and a little tricky. And some, like this barrel slider puzzle game, are just pure pain. While we're on the topic of minigames though, you can actually play the original Mario Bros as a sub-mode on the title screen. It's the same remade version that's in the Mario Advance series with some new music and stuff. So that's pretty cool. I remember playing it quite a bit, but I already own a lot of the Mario Advance games, so I mean it's not really a major selling point. It was cut out in a 3DS version though. I don't know why, but it was. Well, with the gameplay explained, let's go over some of the best characters and locations in Superstar Saga, starting with the characters. First, there's Prince Peasley. You rescue him towards the beginning of the game, and the only reason he got trapped is because he got distracted, and not because he's a helpless noble, unlike some other royal we know. Well, sometimes at least. He's actually a pretty cool character, being a parody of the whole handsome young prince trope. He constantly strokes his hair, acts all chivalrous. I cannot say that word, but you get what I mean. And he acts all arrogant, and he just has this charm to him. One of my favorite scenes in the whole game is when he makes a bet for 1,000,000 coins, and Luigi gets all excited, and then he stabs him in the butt constantly. This is truly the most awesome thing I have ever laid eyes on. Yeah, poor Luigi though. I mean, I don't know, he doesn't really seem to mind that much. Then when Peasley loses the bet and he gives it in Mushroom Kingdom coins, which are only worth 99 Bean coins. Man, inflation in the Mushroom Kingdom must be pretty bad as of late. If I was pretty bad in America, paying like $5 a gallon of gas in some places. I guess Princess Peach hasn't been doing her job lately. You know what, with Cackletta, or Bowser, you can have her, just kidnap her. We need someone else in charge of this country. His mother, Queen Bean, yeah, real creative name there, kinda creeps me out, to be honest. She has no eyes, well, I mean, just like me. She's 10 feet tall and probably weighs just as much as a bear, and shakes the ground every time she speaks. You also have to fight her at one point when Mario and Luigi first reach a castle, since Claughha made her eat a belly belch worm, which turns the queen into a monster. And she also tricks the bros into fixing the castle's plumbing by disguising herself as a lady of the court, Lady Lima. And then this bad plumbing just so happens to be responsible for a force field that guards a powerful relic known as the Bean Star. The Bean Star can grant any desire, sort of like the Triforce, but it needs someone pure of heart to awaken it, hence why she stole Peach's voice. Anyway, she gets said Bean Star and escapes, while Mario and Luigi have to find special soda to transform the queen back to normal. Now, I've gotta be honest about something real fast. As much as I love Superstar Saga and the Mario and Luigi games, Claughha is a pretty mediocre villain, to be honest. I'm sorry. She has a simple and predictable goal of just ruling the world, and is just plain evil with very little personality. Her minion, meanwhile, is easily one of the best Mario characters of all time. Thoughtful. He's weird, very weird. Everything he just says is hilarious, and every time he says something, it just oozes with personality, whether it be about mustards or fink rats or whatever. Thoughtful would even go on to be a prominent character in more installments. You know, I'm not going to say what role he plays, but he definitely deserves the roles he gets. Alright, who else do we have? There's Popple and Rocky. Popple is this overconfident thief guy, and he says "see" all the time and snags items, while Rookie seems awfully familiar, even recognizing the brothers himself. I wonder who it could be. As for locations, there are a lot of great ones here, and a lot of it has to do with Superstar Saga taking place in the Bean Kingdom instead of the Mushroom Kingdom. Well, not all of it. I mean, at the first 30 minutes of the game, they're in the Mushroom Kingdom, but that's not my point. My point is that the areas are very different than what you guessed when imagining Mario levels, with even typical looking levels like deserts and grasslands looking much different. Hoo Mountain is a good example of what I'm talking about. It could have just been a plain mountain, but instead it has a lot of charm and history. Long ago, an ancient civilization named the Hooligans lived on this mountain, and while exploring it, you can see tons of their architecture amongst other things they left behind. Their descendants still exist too, just around the corner at the base of the mountain, which is kind of refreshing because in real life, nearly every lost civilization still has descendants today. The Mayans, the Indus River Valley civilization, etc. I have to say too that it's nice to see some new species to talk to instead of everything, and I mean everything, just being toads. Another place I love is Claughha Woods, and again, it's not just a generic forest level. It feels mysterious and dreamy with its bizarre, colorful scenery. It's also the home of a soda plant, the same kind of soda I was talking about earlier a Queen Bee needed, Claghha Cola. Apparently to make this soda, you tell jokes to fruit, and the quality of the jokes will affect how good a soda tastes. Now, I have a serious question. Would this make the quality of Claghha Cola inconsistent? I mean, imagine getting a 6-pack or 12-pack or whatever of this stuff, and then the first can it tastes great, and the next day you take another can and it tastes awful, and the next one's mediocre at best. That's not a good business model. The founder of the chateau is somehow still alive too. He's been spending the past 1,000 years telling jokes to a special barrel of Claghha Cola to create the ultimate soda, the Claghha Reserve. It comes to life, you fight it, and then Mario gets trapped in the barrel, drinks all of it, and then pukes it into the queen's mouth. Yeah, did I mention this game was weird? I mean, she also doesn't even seem to care, so yeah. I also think Alpha Dream has a fucking vor fetish with everything they put into her games, with stuff going inside of other people. I know it's an odd thing to come to the conclusion of, but I'm just saying. Especially with what happens later on in this game. Even the overworld is great, the music's catchy, and it goes in a circle, with Bean Castle being in the middle. Like every overworld, there are quite a few secrets and routes that are unlocked with new abilities as the game goes on. Not to mention all the underground side quest sections, where you play a sort of side-scrolling mini-level to win a prize. My only real complaint of the overworld is how many enemies are so aggressive and looking for a fight, no matter how strong the player is. I mean, seriously, I can defeat all these guys with a single blow, yet they keep trapping me in battles. To be frank, what's the point? All I'm gonna get is a slight itty bitty bit of experience and coins. It don't even matter at this point. These Lakitu guys really get on my nerves though, since they stalk you over the whole screen, trying to drop spinies and stuff. I hate them with a passion. It would have been great if the enemies would behave differently depending on the player's level, so they wouldn't get trapped in random battles that don't matter. Moving on from that minor annoyance, all the entrances and pathways to other locations are right here too, which makes the world feel a lot more interconnected than if it was just a world map. However, backtracking isn't that much of an issue because there are multiple warp pipes throughout the kingdom that can be used to travel around in an instant. It worked a whole lot better in my opinion than it did in Paper Mario because as much as I enjoy the sewers, it takes a bit more time to reach the warp pipes to travel around. Bean Bean Castle Town is a Toad town of Bean Bean Kingdom, although it's pretty small with very few buildings except for the castle and some item shops, and only a few small side quests to do. The only other notable thing about it is the Star Bean Cafe. All throughout the land, beans can be collected and brought here to be brewed. Different beans can be brewed together to create different drinks, which can be used to increase stats. 4 different types of beans exist and are collected in different ways. Chickle beans can be dug up from under X spots, he beans can be won in minigames, certain enemies drop woo beans, and who beans are in invisible blocks. What makes making these drinks meanwhile though isn't the stats they give, but the special events triggered each time a new drink is made. For, you see, this cafe is owned by Professor Egad. It's good to see him do something else of his life other than imprisoning the dead for a change. He comes in to try out new drinks, and in return he gives a cool item. By cool, I mean cool, doing things like doubling XP points or coins collected in battle. The cutscenes that play each time are gold too, involving a range of things, such as Egad becoming a ghost and Luigi sucking him up, or getting sick and Luigi sucking him up. I guess Luigi really doesn't like Egad despite saving his butt a couple times. I don't know what Egad did to him. It's a neat addition though, especially for me, since I'm a sucker for Luigi's Mansion references. That's one thing I'm going to talk about someday. Not anytime soon. I have like 5 videos I want to make before then, but And the last place I'll mention for the time being is Woohoo University. With a name like that, the first time I played this I thought, wow, that sounds fun, I wonder what it'll be like. As soon as you enter though, a horde of students run out of the building for their lives, while a barely conscious student explains that Claughha turned all the professors into monsters, then he turns into a monster himself, and then you murder him. Yeah, did I mention this game was dark? Outside of that, the place is still creepy anyway. That music is haunting. It reminds me of the old chateau from Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, just unnerving. The university does have some cool references though, like viruses from Dr. Mario being enemies, or a room full of blocks from other Mario games like Paper Mario and Super Mario World. There are some pretty annoying segments though, like this one, where you have to get Mario to drink water and then shoot into these mice and knock him back into the gap in the wire thing. The main issue though is how hard it is to get them in there. You only have a few shots too after getting the first one in, or else it resets. At the end, it's time for Claughha. She puts Peach's voice into these robots, but something goes wrong and a Beanstar gets all angry and falls into the basement. While I remember her fight being really difficult as a kid, this time I barely struggled. Probably because I was over leveled, or maybe I just really sucked at this game as a kid, I don't know. Probably both. Her attacks are kind of hard to dodge though, especially her black hole move. I mean, I fall into that like every time. After she's defeated though, she actually dies. She's not defeated, she legitimately dies. But Thoughtful sucks up her soul or life force or whatever into his headgear. Then Prince Peasley comes in to save the day. I mean, actually not really. The bros could have taken them on very easily, so. Yeah, but it's cool though that he came in. Because Prince Peasley is cool. In the basement, Popple and Rookie try to steal the Beanstar. They get blitzed, some more Peach bots show up and make the Beanstar even angrier. Everyone tries to struggle for the star but fall off. And then it's revealed that Rookie is actually Bowser. So this kind of reminds me of Mr. L. This is probably where we got the inspiration from. Then Beanstar breaks up into 4 pieces and scatters across the land. What comes next is the whole deserted island with the Fire and Thunder temples I was talking about earlier. After making your way back, a few things are cleared up. For one, Claughha actually never stole Peach's voice. Instead, she was warned ahead of time and a decoy is placed explaining why the Beanstar behaved the way it did. Peach intended to inform Mario of the situation, but he left before she could. Claughha also finds a host for a new soul, none other than Bowser himself, creating Bowletta, preceding Bowsette by about 15 years and not being nearly as hot. I really hope No one was around to hear me say that. Yeah, it's an old meme at this point. That was like, what, 5 years ago? You know, I'm probably going to cut this out of the video, but I'm probably not going to. I really hate myself. With the crisis averted, for the meantime, Peach thinks it'll be a great idea to put herself in danger and visit the only town of toads in the Bean Kingdom, Little Fungi Town. To get there, they have to go through Teehee Desert, full of bandits and sand. But the princess can't be like she is in other Mario RPGs, or even a lot of other Mario games, and has to be a total damsel in distress to defend herself from mere Goombas. You know, Peach's character in a Mario movie was the best thing to ever happen to her. You also have to solve puzzles to open gates, while not letting her out of your sight. The main issue though is her walking on her own, forcing you to solve the puzzles as fast as possible, or else she's gonna get kidnapped. Whenever this happens, the player is to enter her hideout and fight a couple of enemies to rescue her. This is probably one of the least fun parts of the adventure, and it sucks too because I think Teehee Desert would be a great area otherwise. The bandits are a neat idea, the music's catchy, it just feels distinct from the generic pyramid stuff that you'd see like stuff based off ancient Egypt. Well, onto Little Fungi Town then. There's not really much here, other than Toads of course. The only notable thing is an arcade with a minigame. Yay, and believe it or not, Geno actually makes a cameo. How Alpha Dream managed to get the right to do this, I actually don't know, but it's nice to see him for a change. Thankfully, the minigame is extremely easy though. I didn't even read the rules and was still figuring out the controls as I went along, but I managed to win on my first try, just barely, but still. Your reward for winning is food poisoning, taking Mario out of commission for the time being, and even worse, he's gonna turn into a bean in a few days. Conveniently though, there just so happens to be a single cure for it in the nearby Claughha Ruins. Okay, I cannot pronounce whatever that is. I've never heard anyone's... You know what? I'm gonna look up how it's pronounced real fast. Hold on. Claughha Ruins. Okay, apparently it's a real place. Claughha. Okay, I guess it is pronounced Claughha. There's like something in India or something that's this very similar. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna say Claughha Ruins because, you know, let's just call it Claughha Ruins. Anyway, after that, we get a little funny cutscene where Luigi's hypnotized into thinking he's Mario, and then he leaves for the ruins. The segment doesn't last that long, thankfully, but you only play as Luigi, so try to avoid enemies as much as possible. Luigi gets the grass and returns to town, but as luck would have it, Princess Peach would just so happen to be kidnapped by Bowser, or Bowletta. Go figure. I mean, that doesn't happen all the time. You know how many Mario games does Peach not get kidnapped in? I mean, besides the sports and party spin-offs, I literally having a hard time. Super Mario RPG she did. Superstar Saga she does. Partners in Time she does. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I cannot think of a single Mario RPG I have played where she does not get kidnapped off the top of my head. Mario gets cured and the two return to the castle, where Bowletta gives her ransom demand, the Beanstar. Well, I have to say though, it seems kind of weird that she's using a GBA of all things to deliver her message. Although that would be kind of funny if the president was just held for ransom and a 3DS or Switch or whatever is used to play a video of the group's demands in front of Congress. That'd be hilarious, but also pretty terrifying at the same time. Well, I hope you're all ready for some filler. You know the kind. You have to revisit past places and do pointless required side quests, that kind. Since the Beanstalk got broken up into 4 pieces, Mario and Luigi have to venture across the Bean Kingdom again and find them all. For the most part though, I don't hate this filler. For one, the game is actually kind of on the short side anyway, only being 15 to 20 hours long, and without this filler, it would be way too short for an RPG. And second, this content isn't that long, and third, most of it, what needs to be done here, it's not too bad. That being said, I find the Beanstar quest the least fun part of Superstar Saga, mostly because of Guar Lagoon. It starts with a revisit in Teehee Desert. Then you find an abandoned ship with a skeleton crew, well, I guess not abandoned, it's just old. It's kind of there's skeletons in there. I don't know why I put in the script that it was a bandit. It's not a bandit, but you play the before mentioned barrel game I talked about earlier, which really sucks, but I did on my first try. Actually, if it's a lie, I did on my second try. There's another mistake in my script. I'm really slipping, guys, but after that, you help this guy out of the crack in the wall, but somehow an entire ocean worth of water was behind it. The desert floods, the ship sinks again, and then there's an underwater section, which I hate since you move so slowly, but at least you can swim though. Then you finally make it to the lagoon, and things get a lot better. You just solve a few puzzles, followed by a fight with Hermie, the crazy crab guy, to get back the Beanstar piece. As for the other 3 Beanstar pieces, well, they don't take too long to get, taking as long together as the entire Guar Lagoon chapter. You collect bean fruit to feed Yoshis, help this really insane fashion designer, and then you revisit Claughha Woods to refight Poppo, this time all alone. With the Beanstar back together, Bowletta calls the heroes again, demanding they bring the Beanstar to a place across the sea. Joke's end. The way you get there is actually kind of funny. You hammer Luigi into the slot and he turns into a surfboard, and then you proceed to ride him. Please don't take that out of context. Joke's End is without a doubt my favorite area in the whole game, mostly because of the mystery of it. For one, the first time entering the place, you meet this strange girl, Dejora. She denies that Bowletta is there, and I do like how casual she is about everything instead of being all, "This is your final warning." Just after you talk to her, she disappears. And now it's time to explore the place. The puzzles here are the most engaging throughout the whole adventure, with the exception of one other area later on. For a lot of it, the bros are separated, and then you control both of them independently to do things so the other can progress. I'm talking really complicated things, like jumping under a block and then jumping as the other at the same time to get over a ledge, hitting blocks at the same time, having Mario hit a block that spawns a barrel, and then making sure it falls on Luigi. Like real complex stuff that traumatized me when I was 13. The dungeon really stands out from the short and simple things we've seen so far. Additionally, the place is massive, making it very easy to get lost. When I was younger, I really didn't like the complexity, but now I really enjoy it. Then there's the elephant in the room, the first thing everyone thinks of when remembering Joke's End. The music. Not only is it creepy, but it's creepy in a way that most other creepy dungeons aren't. It feels less like there's a big monster out to get you and more like you're stuck here for eternity. Kind of creepy, if that makes any sense. I know it doesn't, but you kinda get what I mean. The song has this chant-like vibe to it, like there's a bunch of cultists doing a ritual nearby, and the repetitiveness of it doesn't help matters. Although this tune definitely does match a cold, frozen place like this. I can just imagine being in a cold, icy jail cell, withering away while this plays in my head. I also have a personal experience with Joke's End. First time I played Superstar Saga back when I was 13, it was a blast. Now I was having a lot of fun before getting here. And no, my story has nothing to do with being traumatized by the music or getting lost. No, what happened to me here was so much worse, so much worse. I took my GBA with me to church one summer Wednesday night, right after I got the Bowletta message to deliver the Beanstar, and when I got to church, I decided that I didn't want to go to youth group that night. I just hid in this back room where no one would find me and hoped no one would notice I was gone. Anyway, I got to Joke's End, right at the beginning with the greeting with Dejora, and then when I tried to save, I dropped my GBA, and to my horror, the game froze right before I could finish saving, and just stayed like that for a good 30 seconds or so. Mario's hand wasn't moving like it normally does, leaving me with no choice but to turn off the system, and when I turned it back on, I looked at my save file. It was gone. Yep, I had to redo the whole game all over from the beginning. 2 weeks and probably a good 20 hours of work just vanished into nothingness. But I didn't give up and actually played for the whole game all over again. Even almost 8 years later, this experience still haunts me and I have all sorts of anxiety when games save, especially this one. I swear though, if anything like this ever happens to me again, I'm just gonna put the game down and probably never play it again. My personal experiences aside, Joke's End ends with a fight with Dejora and her friend, and then Fawful doesn't fall for a fake Beanstar Mario tries to give him, and Bowletta just steals the real Beanstar without giving Peach back. Luigi, though, pulls off the greatest acting gig in human history, not only being able to look exactly like Peach, but breaking the rules of silent protagonists to fool the villains. Now that is some top tier acting that is totally unrealistic, unless Bella and Fawful are total idiots. Reminds me of one episode of Batman animated series where Dick Grayson pulls off a perfect Bruce Wayne impression. Stuff like this doesn't happen. Am I seriously dragging real life into this? This is a game where Luigi can get pounded into a hole and become a surfboard, for God's sake. Luigi, being kidnapped, manages to keep the charade for quite some time, until they finally suspect something and startle him, revealing his mustache. You know, there's one thing I'm genuinely kinda curious about, but I don't have the guts to look up, and that's Luigi crossdressing. I know it's a meme, but a while back, but you know what, never mind. Luigi pulls off his second greatest feat next, making it through Bowser's Koopa Cruiser to get the Beanstar back and then escaping, only to be captured by Popple immediately afterwards in T.E. Desert. There's a quick fight with Popple and his new rookie in the desert, and then they make it back to Bean Mean Town. Only Bowletta has destroyed the town out of spite, with this dark music in the background. Now, the town was in the same state when you first arrived, but after Claughha Woods, it gets rebuilt. But now it's in ruins once again, and it stays like this forever, leaving you unable to do side quests, and it's kind of depressing to be honest. Alright, at long last, it's time for the final chapter, taking place in Bowser's Castle, because that's not something that's been reused for the past 2 Mario RPGs. Jokes aside, this is my favorite iteration of Bowser's Castle. Like Joke said, there are tons of complex puzzles to put the player on their toes and tough enemies. The Koopalings show up too for the first time they had in years up to this point when this game came out. Each of them have their own puzzles like tennis, or this real annoying dizzy walking segment with inverted controls. After these segments are cleared, there's a brief fight with each of them, and I say brief because they're super easy, which is for the best because it would get old if they're all full-scale bosses. Compared to other final areas in RPGs, Bowser's Castle is pretty good all things considered, having a great balance between being enough of a challenge to be engaging but not too hard either. Best of all though, it's not that long either, only taking an hour, maybe an hour and a half to get through. Right before the final door, you fight Fawful once again, and then when he loses he gets kicked out of the castle, only to be seen in later games. And after that, it's time for a final fight with Bowletta. Her first phase is easy. I remember on one save file where I was over leveled, I was able to beat her with one attack. Don't get too comfy though, because she lies a sneak attack and then eats the bros, and then the true final battle begins and is against Cacletta's very soul. Kind of disturbing if you ask me, this part kinda creeped me out as a kid. The fight though is awesome, one of the greatest in the entire Mario series. She attacks multiple times, with a lot of tricky to dodge moves. You start the battle with 1 HP, and she has multiple HP bars for different parts of her body. You should probably knock her hands out first to keep them from attacking you when you go for her head. Then when her head takes enough damage, it exposes her heart for a few turns. Don't ask me how a soul has a heart. Her heart is the only thing that really matters, but it has 1200 HP, and you most likely only get a few shots in before it becomes invulnerable again. Although other body parts can regenerate and heal too, so you have to waste turns taking them out again, so in short, it takes a while to defeat her. More so than any other boss in Superstar Saga. There's a huge element of fun to this though, since you can't just spam overpowered bros attacks to win in a few turns. If you know what you're doing, the game becomes a complete joker on a halfway point, making this battle a pretty unique challenge. And we can't forget though, that this isn't the last time the bros venture inside Bowser's body. Eventually though, Cacletta is defeated for good, not only having her body die but her soul as well, meaning she can never return as a villain. Well, I mean, she couldn't have anyway since Alpha Dream is dead, but rest in peace Alpha Dream, but it always creeped me out as a kid to be honest, like I said earlier. Prince Peasley comes in and thought that it was just a great idea to rig time-activated explosives in the castle, meaning you have to Metroid your way out of here before it blows up, or else enjoy beating the final boss all over again. That's what I would say, but it's actually really short and really easy. You get plenty of time, etc. After that, Bowser wakes up at the worst possible time, not knowing the unspeakable horrors Cacletta probably did while inside of his body. The castle explodes and then Bowser cracks my DS screen. Thanks a lot, man. The ending is brief but heartwarming. Like so many other games, I get this feeling of leaving friends behind. I'm not gonna lie though, even though I'm almost 21, I came close to tearing up while watching this. At least the credits are pretty cool though, being like a lot of other Mario RPGs, you get to see all the characters met throughout the journey, and Prince Peasley has the courtesy to give the heroes a giant present. That's Bowser. I feel really sorry for the poor guy in this game. First, he has his cruiser destroyed, then he got his memory wiped, but he had to be someone else's underling, but he got possessed, now he's been humiliated. Poor guy. Well, that was Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, a great game that birthed the franchise. The story managed to juggle being lighthearted and dark very well. The battle system's fun and unique, and everything we see from the characters to the world to the enemies are distinct from the regular Mushroom Kingdom stuff we're used to. Playing it again was a huge nostalgia hit for me, giving me flashbacks of my middle school days that I completely forgot about. It's just a great game and I love it, and if you all want to play it, there's good news at least. Somehow, Superstar Saga has overcome the fate of most retro RPGs of costing an arm and a leg, instead only going for around 40 bucks on eBay. And while the Wii U eShop closing did take away that option of buying it there, it's thankfully available on Switch Online now too. Lastly, there is a full-on remake of it that came out on 3DS back in 2017, called Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga plus Bowser's Minions. I was thinking of playing that version but stuck with the GBA original since 1, I was more familiar with it for a video, 2, so I wouldn't have to worry about multiple screens to capture and ratio, and 3, because I really don't have a lot of spare money right now. I've only made like 30 bucks doing YouTube so far. I am not even joking. Please subscribe. As for the other games in the series, I plan on covering the rest sooner or later, but only have one planned at the moment, and that's what my next video will be, Mario and Luigi Partners in Time. I'll see you all then, everyone.